welcome to Sports Counsel, your playbook for all things sports. I am your host, Matt. I am here with G and special guest AJ for this episode of the show. We are continuing our fantasy draft primer series to help you ace your fantasy football drafts, and today we're all about the running backs and wide receivers. We'll go over why they're so important to have in fantasy football, how you should approach selecting them, and when you should be drafting them. Finally, we'll share who some of our favorite sleeper picks are at the position this year. Today is August 7th, 2025, and this is episode 180 of the show.
Yeah, I see what you did there, Matt. Who, what, when, there, why, what, how, when. Covered them all.
Think you added a couple or repeated a couple, but yes, that's generally the plan here. G, we're getting right in the swing of things. It is a hot summer day. Fantasy football drafts are at the very most 3 weeks away, so we gotta just push these episodes out and get them rolling.
Yeah, and that's why we brought AJ today, because I swear to you, man, this man has already done like 50 mock drafts, and it's the beginning of August.
Gotta stay prepared, that's all I have to say.
Damn. Welcome AJ to the show. If you have never listened to the show before, AJ has been a frequent guest and a listener. He participated in the listener league of ours that we'll promote a little bit. He's been a participant of it for the last couple of years. He is also a relative of someone on the podcast. I won't say who, but, good to have you back on, AJ.
Appreciate it. Thank you guys for bringing me on.
Yeah. So we're going to get into things right away. We got a very packed agenda, but before we get to that, we are Sports Counsel. And G, where can you find Sports Counsel?
That's a great question. If you want to be like Mitty one day and, get on the podcast, because the best way to do it is to join our listener league, which we'll get into, but that's going to be found in our Discord, which is going to be in the social media link to all of our social media. I think I said that right. But so we're talking Twitter, X, Instagram, Threads, TikTok, Facebook. We're Sports_Counsel. And if you're, want to join, talk, ask questions, do anything you want. That's where to find us. And like I said, in the link of those social medias, you're going to find our Discord link, which is Sports Counsel. That's the name of the Discord. Just a heads up. You might get a message on Discord from Sports Counsel. That is not real.
Yes, we found that out very recently. There's no account. There's no Discord account by us that is named Sports Counsel. Let's not get that twisted. We have social media accounts that are named Sports Counsel, but no Discord account. That is some kind of gambling bot fraud or whatever.
And we are not messaging anybody about player props. I promise you. We have better things to do, like do what we're doing now, which is called the podcast. But like I said, so finding us all your major social media, so Sports_Counsel. Look for this Discord link, join, have some conversations, get to know us. We'd love to get to know you too. We'll answer all your fantasy football questions, whatever you guys got for us. We'll take it on to what we can do for you. Maybe we'll even talk about it on the podcast if it's good enough, And eventually, when the listener league link does come out, it will be first on the Discord. And last year, Matt mentioned it on the last podcast, but it didn't even make it out to Discord. So if you want to be having a chance to get in the listener league, you got to get in the Discord. You got to be ready. I won't say put your notifications on or anything, but, just be wary. You know what I mean? Join the and be wary. Be active.
I'm sorry. Probably you shouldn't have notifications on, but we'll make sure because the gamble bots continue to plague our notifications, but you should stay active, stay vigilant in the Discord. Get ready for that link. It will come soon. And come join our Discord.
Yeah, it's going to be a great time. And during the year when crazy shit happens in the NFL, it's like you will always see our reaction there, seconds afterwards.
Yep. All right. So we're going to get into things. This is the Fantasy Football Draft Primer. This is like the third episode we have in the series. And today we are going to be talking primarily about the two most important positions in fantasy football, which are the running back and the wide receiver. No, this is not up for debate. These are the two most important positions.
And why is that, Matt?
I'll tell you why. Why is that, G? Well, first of all, again, we're going to be discussing four major parts of running backs and wide receivers. The why, the how, when, and the who. So let's start with the why. Why are running backs and wide receivers so important in fantasy football? Well, we kind of went over it in the last episode, and if you haven't tuned into that, you can go ahead and do so, again, in our Spotify, iTunes, whatever. But fantasy football, when you have a starting lineup, you have usually two of each of the positions. You have two running backs and two wide receivers. And you normally have a flex spot as well, which means you can flex either a running back or a wide receiver in the position in your starting lineup. And you only have one quarterback, one tight end, one kicker, one defense that you have to start. So basically, your roster and starting lineup should be primarily composed of running backs and wide receivers. And these players usually score some of the most points in your lineup as well, because again, they make up at least 4 out of like the 9 spots in your lineup. But let's take a look even more into the data here and why everybody tries to prioritize drafting running backs and wide receivers. First of all, you have to draft at least 2 running backs and 2 wide receivers to have a correct starting lineup, and you only have to draft 1 quarterback. So that means if everyone's drafting at least 2 running backs and 2 wide receivers, and you have at least 10 to 12 players, let's say in your fantasy football league, there's only 32 teams in the NFL. And 24 of those running backs are going to be drafted at least in your starting lineups. So it's pretty quickly you're going to run out of running backs to actually be able to get, right? So if all those running backs go away, then you're kind of just left with a bunch of backups. But there are 32 starting quarterbacks, and 32 starting tight ends, which genuinely means that you can, even if you don't get maybe one of the first couple quarterbacks off the board, at a certain point you'll at least be able to get a starting quarterback. But that's not the case when it comes to running backs and wide receivers. So then secondly, let's take a look at basically, if you take a look at the starting quarterbacks that you could get and the top 5 quarterbacks versus, your top running backs and wide receivers, right? Let's say you're able to draft one of the top 24 running backs. And then let's say you miss out and you can't get one of the top 24 running backs off the board. So you have to settle for like the 25th best running back or the 32nd best running back off the board, right? Because you kind of miss your chance. We did a calculation, and we do this calculation every year on the data on whether or not how many points you'd lose out on per game if you kind of didn't draft one of the top running backs. So let's compare the top running back last year, which was Saquon Barkley, of course, by far, with 338.8 half PPR points, versus the 24th best running back on the board, which I believe was Rico Dowdle. So he had 162.9. That's actually pretty impressive. Rico Dowdle, I didn't expect him to be in the top 24, but
I didn't either. That's crazy.
Yeah. But the difference between those 2 running backs right there is 175 points, which is more than Rico Dowdle even scored last season. And that's an average of about 10.9 points per game. You're losing out on double-digit points every time you put your 25th best running back and you pit him up against the other guy's Saquon Barkley, right? If you even exclude Saquon, because he had an incredible year, almost historic, almost beat Eric Dickerson in most rushing yards, right? Let's go to the second best running back, which I want to say is Derrick Henry. So it was 297 points versus, again, Rico Dowdle, right? It is still about 7 to 8 points per game you're missing out on, right? Let's go to the wide receivers, right? Jamar Chase was the number 1 ranked wide receiver last year. He had 318 points versus the 24th best wide receiver. I don't know who it is. I forgot the name. The difference between that is 153 points, 9.5 points per game. Again, almost double digits, almost 10. Now, this is more impressive when, again, you go back to the starting quarterbacks and the starting tight ends. Again, we're judging it based off the number 1 quarterback, which was Josh Allen, versus the 12th best quarterback you can get. Because, again, you're only going to fill out about the 12 quarterbacks, right? The gap is about 132 points, which is about 8 points per game. So a little less than both of the running backs and the wide receivers. Tight end, it's even less. It's only about 5 points per game that you're actually missing out on. So we'll get to the quarterbacks and tight ends in another episode. But basically, if you don't have an elite running back or an elite wide receiver, you're missing out on more points per game because, again, you're matching up against these other league mates, these other teams. And if they have a better running back than you, then you're already losing out on more points. The quarterback difference is comparable. Like, it's still important, but it's not as important. And if you have a bad tight end, it's really not even that important at that point because you're only missing out on like 5 points per game. That's not even more than a touchdown. So that's a little spiel about how kind of running backs and wide receivers, why they're so important, why they're so hard to get, right? Because again, 32 running backs total. You'll need to and you're already filling up 24 running backs just by being in a league and having to start them all. Then you have to consider everyone's going to want a backup running back, right? All the handcuffs, right? So then you might only be able to roster like backup running backs on your bench. So prioritize those running backs and wide receivers, definitely. So now let's go to the how how do you specifically choose which one's the best running back and which one's the best wide receiver for your team? And this is kind of where I want to open the floor a little bit. G, how do you kind of, in your very expert and very, veteran experience, how have you normally tried to draft a running back? How do you base your decision off that?
Yeah, for me, running backs, I mean, you want to look at like two things. For mostly, you want to look at volume, right? Like how many touches is this guy going to get? For example, obviously Saquon's like the talk of the town, right? So he was getting fed touches, like an absolutely insane amount of touches. But if you don't get those touches, obviously, like it sounds so obvious, but it is that simple. If you're not getting those touches, the chances of you really getting top tier production is dwindled, right? Like, what are the chances you're going to get someone else that can put up 300 touches just in itself, right? Mm-hmm. So that's like one of those things where like I'm looking at guys that are not only just workhorses. But then that's kind of goes to my second thing. Like, what does the offense look like? Is it a productive offense? You want quality touches, right? For example, Tony Pollard, right? He is basically the most one of the most used running backs, but very inefficient and a really bad offense. So it's hard for him to really stand out and you put up touches. But if you go for a Derrick Henry, he has a guy like Lamar right next to him who's also running the ball, opening lanes for him, making it easier is the key thing, right? And allowing him to get touchdowns, right? The touchdowns come with the efficiencies. Like you're getting 6 points. Like for someone else to get 6 points, they'd have to get 60 yards. But if, my quarterback can get us down the field and I can just punch it in, then obviously I'm going to be able to get way more yards like that, right? It sounds very simple, but it does take a lot more research. You got to look at the stats. Look at where the opportunity is going to be. Are they fighting with backfield? Do they have like a committee? We'll definitely get into that more when we kind of talk about some of these guys in the later rounds. Like, are they in a committee? Well, what's the chances they take over that committee? Some of the guys we like in the late, we might expect them to like take a bigger chunk of the work, right? So when I'm looking at receivers, I'm looking at all that different type of stuff. It's very nuanced in terms of like, every situation is separate. Like, obviously not every situation is Saquon's situation, but there is, I would say, similar options. So it's up to you to kind of, spend the draft capital to find them. Yeah,
and exactly, G. And again, for all you very first-time fantasy football players don't even know how to play, the way you get points is the stats that the player accumulates over the game, right? So if Saquon has 15 carries for 200 yards, which is crazy. That's like 20 points right there because the 200 yards, every 10 yards is worth a point in fantasy football. And then if he scores a touchdown, that's 6 points because it's 6 points in real life, right? So that's if you don't get opportunities to actually use the ball and get some yards, you're never going to be able to get points, right? So fantasy football players are always looking for opportunity, right? How many carries do you get? How many targets do you get? And, that's just based off the offense. And again, yeah, like you said, G, some people discount how you need to have a good offense that actually scores points because touchdowns matter a lot more than, just getting yards. So if, maybe like Aaron Jones and Tony Pollard are comparable in terms of talent, we could have that debate at a later time. But Aaron Jones would get more opportunities to score touchdowns than Tony Pollard, which is why he's probably ranked higher on those boards, right?
And that's a great example because, it's not about like the talent per se, you know what I mean? And Mitty, you can let us know what you think too. Not always the most talented player, the best player for fantasy, right?
100%. I think it's the immediate impact and then high fantasy potential. So running backs, they often hit the ground hard and, it's a boost to the offense, of course. And then elite running backs, they are reliable and they consist of fantasy football scoring due to the high volume of carries. So you definitely want to take a look and make sure what's the right move. But just know like you could fall into an issue where you might not get the best option, and then it turns out to a bottom tier. So you definitely want to plan ahead, just like what G and Matt said, and look at what's the right option each round, and know that if you don't get a running back early, for sure, it might play you down like throughout the rounds.
Yeah, and that's actually a great segue into the next segment here, which is the win, right? We talked about it a little bit on the last podcast, but again, when you come into these drafts, you kind of want to have a sense of when you want to target each position, right? when you run all of these mocks, you'll kind of get a sense of, okay, I like a certain player in a certain round, right? So that means let's say, for example, you love Bucky Irving at running back. So you're going to target him in the second round. So great. That's one of your starting running backs settled. But when you come into it and there's 15 rounds, right, and you have to fill out like 6 to 8, starting positions, you kind of have to say, okay, what position am I going to target in each round in order to make sure I have a good lineup? So in the first round, like we said before, and we already sorted out our first round big board. So again, you can go look at that. But in the first round, we kind of want to make sure you can't win your fantasy football league in the first round, but you can certainly lose it. So really, you're kind of just trying to pick the best player available. And again, we ranked all of those players regardless of position, 1 through 12 for the first round. So now we're going to go into the second round and kind of the middle rounds and kind of determine, okay, now we're kind of basing it more on need, right? What do I need right now? Basically, we're going to take a look at the ADP and the big board. The ADP is, what is it? What does the A stand for? I know the drafted projection, but what
average.
Is it? Average? Okay,
average draft position.
Gosh, yeah. Even I forget some of the terms sometimes, guys. But the average drafted position of all of these players in the second round and the third round and the fourth round. And we're going to take a look at the usual suspects at running back for those rounds and the usual suspects at wide receiver for those rounds and see which position we like more. And based off of that, we'd kind of say, okay, if I was in a mock draft or was in a real draft, I would target wide receiver more in the second round. And because I like the players better in that position and that round. And then maybe in the third round, you say, okay, I want a running back, right? And then we're going to see, exactly how to formulate that out. And eventually we'll kind of flesh that out. So now, after these 2 episodes, you're going to get a sense of who you should draft in the first round and what positions you should be targeting in each of these rounds. The when.
Right? We couldn't make it easier for you guys.
Yeah. We're literally giving you the skeleton key, and then you're going to play us in the listener league, and you're going to beat us with this exact strategy. So
well, that's what they think because I won last year, so they're not really going to beat me per se. They might beat Matt, which is kind of,
I don't think so, but,
a given.
We're going to have to find out. But let's give you that look right now. This is going to be kind of a discussion here. So let's take a look at the second round, and let's take a look at the running backs that are projected to go in the second round versus the wide receivers. So in the second round, we have at running back CMC, Devon Achane, Bucky Irving, Josh Jacobs, and Jonathan Taylor. At wide receiver, we have Brian Thomas, A.J. Brown, Drake London, and Ladd McConkey. Oh, man. I feel like the second round is a lot of good players that,
both positions.
Yeah, I feel like, honestly...
I think my choice is clear. I think we were going to go 3, 2, 1, and then each time kind of just like blurt out what we think and then see if we're on the consensus same page here. So let's try it. So 3, 2, 1, running back.
Wide receiver.
Running back.
Oh, yes. Thank you.
Okay, we're in a bad position.
That's why he's my cousin, man. We're locked in, Mitty.
He's your cousin?
What? He was my cousin? He wasn't your cousin?
That's crazy. That's crazy.
But no, yeah.
Even the way I introduced him, yeah.
You would have thought.
Running back, really?
Yeah. I mean, I'm looking at the running backs here, and I just see guys that are high-volume, pass-catching running backs, right? CMC, A-Chain, and then you got just absolute volume eaters in Josh Jacobs and Jonathan Taylor. And we're assuming, obviously, why Bucky is up here, that he's going to be kind of like a volume eater too, right? So that's why I'm like, oh, man, these guys, like if I can get, let's say if I get, regardless of running back or wide receiver first, I have an option to get one of these guys on top of that. Like, that sounds great to me.
Sounds great to me as well. We're talking about elite running backs, and this whole category right here is elite.
Exactly. These guys, you're not taking out the lineup. Like, there's no reason for me to take any. Obviously, the receivers, you're not taking out the lineup either. But my point is that with running backs, it's hard to find running backs that you don't need to take out of the lineup at any point during the season, right? Like Mitty said, these guys are the elite guys. Like, they're hard to, later we go in these rounds, you're not getting elite level running backs. You might be a guy that ends up bursting and becoming elite, but as a draft day, there's hard to say there's a given elite running back, but I would say this is about as close as you can get.
I'll give you that. I will give you that, and I'll concede that point. I do like the talent overall more of the wide receivers because it's Brian Thomas, AJ Brown. I think those guys are, just elite in and of itself, and they're gonna see elite volume, and they're gonna be great. Like AJ Brown, I think he's just always elite as a player, and then Brian Thomas, I think he's becoming elite as a wide receiver. He was already like a top 5 wide receiver last year, right? And then Drake London, great volume, right? Ladd McConkey should be good volume, but I do agree in the sense that, I do want to point out, and it's a good point, that the decisions can't just be made based on rounds, even though that's kind of what we're doing right now. You also have to kind of understand, and you'll kind of see it as we progress here, that the running backs might get less and less talented as it goes by, right? And then you kind of also account for the fact that, okay, even though the running back and wide receiver groups are comparable in terms of talent right now, maybe they're not going to be as comparable later. So that's why I'm going to pick a running back now, right? Because they're more talented right now.
That is exactly my logic. Yeah. You can find wide receiver 2s that can still put up numbers in rounds 5, 6, whatever. It's a little bit of foreshadowing, but, I don't think we're going to find running backs like that over there. So
that's fair. All right. Let's go to round 3 here. Okay. So at running back, we have Kyron Williams, Chase Brown, Breece Hall, and James Cook. And at wide receiver, we have Tyreek, JSN, T. Higgins, Garrett Wilson, Terry McLaurin, and Marvin Harrison Jr.
Oh, man.
Okay.
This is a tough one.
This one's actually a little easier for me.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, let's do it. 3, 2, 1.
Running back. We flipped.
We did flip here.
We flipped.
Mitty, you went running back too, right?
Yeah, that is correct.
He stayed the same.
Man, I don't see it because, like, for me, I'm looking at these receivers, and then these are the last set of real wide receiver ones. I mean, I'm not just saying they're wide receiver ones because they're just the best receiver on their team. Actual on most teams would be wide receiver ones, and I'm like, I got potential for league winners. I know that term gets thrown around a lot, but you got guys like Tyreek Hill who just put up 2,000 yards 2 years ago. JSN, who had DK and Tyler Lockett there last year, and now neither of them are there. T. Higgins, always great. Garrett Wilson, he's always been a 100-target guy. These guys are certified. And with these running backs, I honestly am just, some of these guys I'm just not the biggest fan of, so it's kind of scary for me. So guys like Kyron, guys like Chase Brown, Cook, that scares me, Matt. I would expect the James Cook to throw you off a little bit too there, Matt, because with the Le'Veon Bell-esque type of stuff, right? The guy's got to be in the offseason, bro.
I think you're just traumatized from the Le'Veon experience because he just literally never came back. But
that is true.
I'm personally of the belief that James Cook will eventually come back. So that kind of factors it in for me. I don't like that, I don't like players who skip training camp. I usually tend not to draft them. But I think he's normally fine, especially in round 3. He was a top, I want to say top 10 running back last year.
He also had 16 touchdowns. He's just not getting 16 touchdowns again.
You never know. They didn't upgrade that wide receiver room all that much, right?
They did not. But at the end of the day, just mean to regression, right?
That's fair. But what I'm thinking of is exactly the point that you brought up last time, G, is that, now we're at the point where it's okay, I really need a running back at this point because I think there's a huge drop-off that's about to take place in round 4. And I'll just kind of hint at it already. We have Kamara and Hampton and Walker. And then, that's not really a kind of level I'm comfortable with as a starting running back. That's where it starts to get a little bit dicey, right? I think Kyron still gets elite volume, and he was a great running back last year. Chase Brown, I think everyone's projecting him to take a leap, so I'm a little surprised he's here at round 3. James Cook and Breece Hall are a little bit more iffy. But at the same time, when you go to the wide receivers again, Tyreek's getting a little old here. T. Higgins is a 2, so I'm not going to really diss him for that, but there is there's a chance that he might not get everything there. And then you got Garrett Wilson, who has Justin Fields at the quarterback. McLaurin, who's in a holdout as well, right? So if we go James Cook to McLaurin, let's cancel each other out there. And you got Marvin Harrison, which, wasn't super inspiring last year. So at that point where I'm okay, I'm not really feeling this group of wide receivers. I feel like I can still get a good running back, not just a iffy running back.
I think for the wide receiver part, if you look at it from 2023, I'm just going to say this because I am a residential Bears fan, of course, but Garrett Wilson, if we relate that to DJ Moore's 2023 season with Justin Fields, those numbers skyrocket for his receiving yards. So I think those can translate over with the Jets for 2025. And then also, if you look at it, that they have that Ohio State connection too. So that's one thing. But I think for these rounds, you definitely just have to see which is the best pick available. So I wouldn't go wrong for the running backs or the wide receiver side. But if I had to, that it probably makes sense going to running back. That's why I would say a running back is probably the best option because this is probably the last elite group that you're thinking of. Mixing in with Kamara and all the other stuff, but this is probably that elite group that is pretty much at that cutoff mark.
Yeah. And I think one big thing is that I talked about, again, the importance of running backs and wide receivers. There's usually only one real starting running back for a team, right? But there's usually at least two starting wide receivers. Usually the wide receiver 2 has maybe considerably less volume, but they usually still get a good amount of targets. It's not like they can target Justin Jefferson like 20 times a game, right? Jordan Addison will get targets, but I think it's a little harder for a backup running back to get more carries. So if you had to even rank wide receivers and running backs, I'd probably put running backs a little bit of ahead of wide receivers in terms of importance. Like, you got to get them early, right? I think, would you guys agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, a little bit my premise of picking the wide receivers here is I'm maybe thinking that I've already got 2 running backs, first, second round running backs, and now I'm like, oh, let me get an elite receiver, right?
That's true. I think we're starting to diverge in our paths here. So let's keep it going. Let's go round 4. So, as I said earlier, we've got Alvin Kamara, Omarion Hampton, the Chargers rookie running back, Kenneth Walker, and Chuba Hubbard. And round 4 for wide receivers, you got Mike Evans, DJ Moore, DK Metcalf, and Devontae Adams. This is really tricky, honestly, for me. Ooh,
I think this is the hardest one so far.
Yeah.
But I think I have my answer.
Okay, let's do it. 3, 2, 1.
Wide receiver.
Wide receiver. I think we all went wide receiver. First time.
All right. I think we can generally agree. Again, I think I kind of prefaced it earlier, like the running back room is kind of weak. I think, and all three of these guys that we mentioned, Moore, Evans, Metcalf are wide receiver 1. Devontae Adams is a high-end wide receiver 2. So I think they kind of pretty much solidly beat out the running backs here, right?
Yeah. And it just, the running backs are a little scary. I mean, you mentioned it earlier, but Kamara is really old, and his production came on a lot of checkdowns. Hampton's a rookie. And then Walker and Hubbard are good options. Like, they're good running back twos, but we got great wide receivers, in my opinion. Like, Evans has been great every year. Metcalf, I think, even if he's not, like, impact-wise very good, he will get fed by Aaron Rodgers, will make him fantasy great. And then same with Adams. Like, Adams, as long as Matthew Stafford's playing and Jimmy G's not the one playing, he should be good there, right?
No promises.
I've been seeing this man, Devontae Adams, in practice, man. He has been cooking the Cowboys defense. Like, just every corner they put on him, he's got a route for them. But he looks like prime Devontae, man. Like, he doesn't look like that Raiders and Jets crap that was going on last year. He looks like a man that's like, hasn't missed a step.
That's fair. While we get into it, we're kind of basing it not just on positional, but on talent. If you have 3 wide receivers already, don't be afraid to get a 4th wide receiver if the board is not falling to you, right?
Yep.
You don't have to fill out the need, right? If you see the more talented player and they're clearly more talented, just pick them. You just have to go with your gut and pick them. And then you'll figure out the rest later. Because even if you have 4 elite wide receivers, that means you're open to a trade now. And maybe you can get another running back later on down the road. But pick talent first as well.
And also in today's leagues, if you got 4 great wide receivers, there's a good chance you're probably playing 2 flex, So you got 2 starters, you got 2 flex. They're all filled to great wide receivers. You're going to put up damn near like 75, 80 points between those 4 guys. And, it's a good start.
I love my flex lineup last year. I had, A.J. Brown, T. Higgins, Debo, and Rasheed. It lasted good for a while until Debo got fat and Rasheed tore his ACL. But, again, it doesn't matter in terms of position. It's all about the talent, and it'll work out.
That is true. I like that we're on the same consensus there, though, guys.
Yeah. I'm sure we'll disagree soon. All right. Round 5 here, we got Joe Mixon, James Conner, David Montgomery. Those are some old head running backs right there. And then we got wide receiver. We got some new guys in Jameson Williams, Zay Flowers, Xavier Worthy, and George Pickens. All right. we're starting to get into some dicey territory here. These are guys maybe that aren't starters, but more your flex options. So now we're looking for maybe high-end flexes and backups to your already got like selections in the first 4 rounds.
You guys ready?
I'm ready.
Yep.
I think I got my choice. 3, 2, 1. Wide receiver.
Running back.
Wide receiver.
Ooh.
Oh, man. Yeah, I like the wide receivers here. I mean, J-Mo's got a lot of upside. Pickens got a lot of. That's what I'm looking here. I'm like, we talked about potential here, and then do they have an option of like at least being really productive? And for all 4 of these guys, I see it. Worthy, Rice might be out for a considerable amount of time, be it a suspension. He's coming back off an ACL. Pickens is going to be in a Dallas offense that just throws the hell out of the ball, so he'll be getting fed touches. God, man, I love that. And then you got, you look at Flowers. He's been playing great, and he's basically the wide receiver 1 with no comp. I know D-Hop is there now, but that's not really comp. They didn't bring him in to be wide receiver 1 or anything now, so it's like, I don't know, man. It just sounds so nice.
I'll give you that. My mentality when I came into the 5th round here was potential versus reliability. And I went with reliability because I said, in the first couple rounds, we're kind of aiming for the stars. We're reaching for the stars in terms of our starters. Get the most talented player, get the highest potential, right? Now, when I'm looking for backups and flexes, I'm like, okay, who can consistently get me a good, solid double-digit points, right? And I'm looking at these guys, Demo, Connor, Mixon. I feel like Montgomery, even though Gibbs is expected to take a larger starting role this year, Montgomery's still going to be that solid guy. He's probably going to steal a lot of touchdowns still from Jahmyr Gibbs just because he's a big dude and he's just a straight between the tackles kind of guy. Connor, we've kind of just seen it every time. He's just been a reliable guy. He's the new Tyler Lockett. He's always beat his ADP basically every year. So I would definitely go with that. Mixon, he's the only guy in the Texans running back room. So I'm looking for more kind of a stable guy, but I understand why you would go for potential there.
I think for the wide receivers, you gotta also look at like J-Mo. He's gonna be in a new offense, so we'll see how that looks like. Zay Flowers is probably the only reliable wide receiver for the Ravens at the moment. And then Worthy, of course, but Pickens is an interesting one because he's on a new team, so we'll see how that plays out.
The thing that scares me with the 3 guys that you named at running back, Mixon, Connor, and Demo, is that they are older. And with these running back fall-offs, they're not, like, graceful at all. Like, one of these 3 is probably going to be cooked, and next year not going to be draftable.
Do you want to venture a guess on who that's going to be?
Probably James Conner.
Wow, I was going to say Mixon.
I just don't know if my thing with Mixon is I just don't know if they have anybody else there. And with running backs, you don't know if they got anybody there until that person emerges, right? But I just think that Connor is he's had his fair share of injuries. He's been healthy reliably for the most part of the last couple of years. But when like I said, when it comes down ugly. And I don't see it.
That's fair. Okay, let's go with round 6 here. We got R.J. Harvey, Isaiah Pacheco, Travion Henderson, the New England Patriots rookie running back, Quinshon Judkins, the Browns rookie running back, and Aaron Jones. And at wide receiver, we got wide receivers. We got Jerry Jeudy, Calvin Ridley, Tet McMillan, Travis Hunter, Chris Olave, and Jordan Addison. This is an intriguing list of names here. We got like 3 to 5 rookies here.
These are like all kind of risky players, but I know what side of the fence I'm on the risk here.
Okay, let's see it. All right, in 3, 2, 1, wide receiver. Wow.
Matt, man, why don't you want to agree with me? Come on.
Maybe because I chose a running back last time and I went with reliability. Now I'm going with potential here. That's also part of why I didn't go with round 5 wide receiver, because I have like round 6 wide receiver. I kind of like the potential there. I like Tet McMillan. I think he's going to be a volume target for the Panthers. I also just liked him in Arizona, so maybe that's kind of a part of it. Olave, he's the only guy in the Saints offense. Might not be great targets, but they are targets. Travis Hunter, I am intrigued by his potential. So, some of the young guys there I like.
I mean, I get what you're saying there, but I feel like the potential, if we're doing straight potential, the running back's potential is way higher. You got guys like Tet, who, even if he is good, he's so Bryce Young dependent. And, people have his thought of Bryce Young at the end of the year where he was great, but the last like year and a half before that, he was like literally he was so bad they benched him. Like that was still the same Bryce Young we're talking about. You know what I mean? So like I'm not gonna act like that wasn't there. There's a chance. And then the Travis Hunter thing is like I would rather just support him because I do think he's gonna be good. I just don't know fantasy wise like what that's gonna look like, and that scares me. Addison just got suspended. Ridley and Judy and Olave, they should be good. They're good like wide receiver threes for your fantasy team. But then I'm looking at these running backs, right? And I'm looking at Travion Henderson, and I think he's going to be the starting running back with pass catching comps. You know, that's going to be great. That's like exactly what you want from your running back, right? And I think he has very, very high upside. RJ Harvey in a O-line with the Broncos, which is great. And Sean Payton, who knows how to pick his running backs and which ones he wants. He's been great about that. And he always produces, like, his running backs always produce good numbers. So, you know, I'm not too worried about that either, right? That seemed great. And then Judkins, I want to say it's going to be great, but this whole little scandal that's going on. Yeah. Well, there's not a holdout.
Oh, yeah.
He has a case on him, and the Browns are waiting for the case to settle before they give him a contract. So he's probably going to go on the commissioner's exempt list and not be available this year. So it's pretty serious. But, you know, regardless, that's not, you know, here or there.
It's 1-1 again. Addison and Judkins. Yeah,
but, you know, and then Pacheco. Pacheco was one of the best, you know, not one of the best, but he was a really good, reliable option before his injury. And it's not like this is going to be his first game back from injury. He spent time last year after injury playing, and, you know, it wasn't good, but at least he got it out the way. So this year, I feel like they don't have anybody there to compete with them. He should be ready to go.
Yeah, he should be definitely ready. I mean, coming back, I definitely think it was a little bit tough from that injury, but because he hasn't played for a bit. But yeah, he's definitely going to be going with a good one.
Mitty, if you had to choose between one of the running backs, because I think you went running back, right? Which one would you choose?
For the running backs, I would go with Henderson.
Solid one. I agree with that. Okay.
Come on, Matt. Let's link up on one of these, man.
I think the next one's going to be fairly easy here because I'm looking at it. We got Tony Pollard, Caleb Johnson, DeAndre Swift at running back for round 7. Calvin Ridley, Chris Godwin, Jacoby Myers, Rome Odunze, Khalil Shakir. I personally think this is an easy one.
Yeah, this is an easy one. I can see it.
Okay.
Let's do it.
3, 2, 1. Wide receiver.
Wide receiver.
Yeah. Now, this is relatively – these running backs are Tony Pollard, I think he's cooked. DeAndre Swift, I think he's cooked. Caleb Johnson, you know, I think he's going to be good. Not sure if he's going to get touches right away because of, you know, the Steelers just being the Steelers. And Arthur Smith is I don't want to use the words that Matt would use to describe him, but he's not the best at
fantasy football terrorist.
There you go. And that's not really what I want, you know. So I these wide receivers just have, you know, stability. There's potential. There's guys, you know, that have done it before. There's everything here. So like, there's no reason to not take these running backs. Or sorry, these wide receivers over these running backs.
You almost got them.
Yeah.
Is DeAndre Swift cooked, Mitty?
Yes. I think the O-line has been improved, so we'll see how that works. I mean, he had some games last year where he did okay. I think versus the Commanders was a pretty big one. But other than that, I mean, I wouldn't trust Swift. He's good for like just a backup option for the most part. But other than that, I don't see him doing good this year.
I don't know if I mentioned it before, but Mitty is indeed. Did I even mention that his name is Mitty? I introduced him as AJ. He goes by Mitty Chulity in our listener league, so I kind of interchanged them. And he is a Bears fan, so that's why he's got the insider information right now.
It's quite sad if you are correct about that.
I agree.
So, I mean, I think that was a simple one. I think this kind of like, this is what we were kind of mentioning earlier. Like, I think we all would kind of agree on this. Is like, why do we want to get the running backs early? It's because these guys are ugly. Yeah. It's getting rough out here.
No upside for that part.
Mm-hmm. I do want to point out now, again, maybe we'll kind of revisit it, but now that we're getting into a very, very rough part in terms of the running backs, maybe we should consider just sweeping the running back board. Like, now that we've kind of taken a look at it, maybe we should have gone running back for the first 3 rounds, and then, like, wide receivers for the rest. But, you know, we'll take a look at that later.
Right.
Round 8, Tyrone
man.
Tracy, Jalen Warren, Travis Etienne, and Brian Robinson. And then wide receivers, we got Deebo Samuel, Cooper Kupp, Stephon Diggs, and Jawan Jennings. Some very gilded age kind of wide receivers here. It's like the round 5 running backs. It's just like some of the names that you've just known for a while now, but they're all in different places. So this is actually really hard. I don't have a decision
This is
right
the
off
hardest
the
one.
bat.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think I have my decision. Do I feel very confident? Could I be swayed to the other side? Definitely. I still have my choice, but yeah.
Okay, I got a decision.
I think I got a decision too. Now we're talking about it.
You want to count
Alright.
off this time, Mitty?
All right, 3, 2, and 1.
Running back.
Running back.
Running back, yeah. I had to think about it for a second. I was like, let me not just say one thing because I was like, does it make sense? I was like, yeah, I'm gonna just go running back.
I think we've come to a consensus here. I mean, I think this is more about the fact that, at least for me, the wide receivers are old, and I don't trust old wide receivers.
They're old and injuries. Like between all 4 of them, they're all injuries guys.
Mhm.
And the running backs have slight bit of potential. Like Jalen Warren's never been an RB1 in any offense, so there's a chance he might be a good running back one. ETN, new coach, there's very little potential left there. But between Tracy and Robinson, they both had good years last year. They're kind of just like, people are assuming they're not going to be good, but like someone has to run the ball there. You know, Scatabo or Jaden Daniels, whoever you think it's going to be, like they just can't obviously do it by like just them. They're going to be someone that needs to carry the ball multiple times a game, so why not them, right? So yeah.
Was ETN that bad? I
He was
don't
awful.
remember him being that bad.
It was awful last year.
Yeah.
That
Man.
dude sucked.
I know he fumbled, right? He fumbled a lot. I remember that.
Yeah, not even just the fumbles, but he was just not very good with his touches either.
It's just like all around, just not good. Can't even
Yeah,
describe it.
Yeah, literally, it's just ugly for ETN, and you know they got rookies there that might surpass him.
I'm thinking about buying the dip, honestly, on that, but we'll see. We'll see.
Oh, Lord.
I think another fantasy strategy would be probably like in the later rounds, grabbing 2 of those running backs from the Jags.
2 of them. Who's the other one? Tank? Are we talking
Tank
or
and
Tootin?
Tootin.
Tootin?
Yeah, 2.
I would honestly go Tank and Tootin and just leave ETN.
Yeah, screw ETN.
Taking 2 non-starting Jaguars running backs. I don't know.
I wouldn't say non-starting because I don't know if ETN's starting.
It's fair. It's fair.
To be determined.
To be continued.
Yeah.
I'm going to stake my claim now. ETN will be the starting running back. And he will be good.
That's
Only-
a bold
Ooh.
claim.
That's what I would say.
I'm buying the dip.
All right. Well, let's
Maybe
lock
maybe
out
I
this
just
last...
I gotta look closely myself for it to happen.
Yeah, I think you got to look in the mirror and then look at ETN's stats and then look in the mirror again and then be like, why did I say that?
Yeah.
Well, to be continued.
Okay. Well, round 9 is our last round we're going to cover. Here, we're doing the same kind of method here, but running backs, we got Najee, Scatabo, Javonte Williams, and Jordan Mason. And our wide receivers, we got Jaden Reed, Matthew Golden, Ricky Pearsall, Downs from the Colts, and then Matt's favorite, Brandon Ayuk. This is also very easy for me. I don't know about you
Where's
guys.
all my wide receivers at the bottom here? We got Jennings, Pearsall, and Ayuk in the last 2 rounds. Come on, guys.
Well, we had one running wide receiver, and that was it. But yeah, I think I have my option here. You guys ready to roll here?
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, let's go.
3, 2, 1.
Wide receiver. Yep.
Yeah, I don't know. I think these running backs are awful. I mean, nicely said. I don't believe in Scatabo, Javonte.
Your
Jordan
boy's
Mason's-
there.
Yeah, but he can't see right now, so that's kind of difficult. And yeah, that's a whole different problem for another day. But these wide receivers aren't actually like, honestly, I would take some of these guys over the round 8 guys. Like Golden, great potential and a great offense. Is he going to be the wide receiver 1? It's him or Reed. You take a swing at one of them. You know what I mean? And then you also have guys like Pearsall. I think he could be a wide receiver 1 for a meantime. Maybe Jawan Jennings dealing with injuries and the
Ayuk. Yeah.
Ayuk, I don't like Ayuk too much this year. He's coming off the ACL. He's also kind of slow year last year to start off with. So I think he's kind of like more of a next year play. Unfortunately, Matt, I'm sorry I had to tell you that, but
totally get that.
And then I'm looking at, go for it.
No, I got you. I think for the wide receiver, the only one that gives me a little bit of an issue of selecting would be Downs, I would say, because, I don't know who the quarterback is going to be, starting quarterback for the Colts, but it's either him or Pittman. I think Downs had like 1 or 2 games, but other than that, it was just pretty inconsistent.
I think if it's Richardson, I'd stay away, but if it was, what's his name, Daniel Jones, I'd kind of like it a little bit more because he was like a PPR magnet, right? But Richardson just sucks at throwing, so like you got to get him targets. But if they're inaccurate targets, it's not as good. But I actually like Downs out of the most out of all of them here, just because in a PPR league, which is points per reception, every reception is going to matter, and he got a lot of receptions last time.
Yep.
I really like Pearsall for the same reason. Like, someone on that Niners offense is going to do well.
Yeah, it's Kittle and McCaffrey. No.
Which is true, but wide receiver-wise, someone's going to put up numbers. I mean, Jawan Jennings, in fairness to him, he was good last year, and he was still there this year. But, before the year started, no one was like, dude, Jawan Jennings is a great sleeper. Like, he's going to kill this Niners offense. No one's saying that, right? So now, no one's saying that about Pearsall, and it could be Pearsall's time this year. So that's why I'm like, with the Niner guys, like, it's just it's a throw in the dark. But in the 9th round, and I've got my kind of team completed, like, there's an upside. There's some, I like it. I like the upside. I like the potential there.
I don't know, man. As a Niners fan personally, I can't swing either way on Pearsall right now because he's just a complete unknown. Like, I don't know anything about, because we haven't done that much with him. And he had some weird injuries last year. He had, obviously, the regular injuries with, the ribs and the legs and stuff like that. But then he got shot. So, and he was out for a very long time based off that as well. And I just don't know exactly what his role is in the offense. It's a gamble, but the whole thing's a gamble at this point. And when you're in round 9, you kind of just have to. At this point, you're kind of looking for lottery tickets as well and see, okay, where's the most potential.
Another thing I would say too. Sorry, Matt, to cut you off, but the Niners do have an easy schedule. They have the easiest NFL schedule. So
very true.
Feed Pearsall.
Yeah, that's gonna matter.
That is gonna matter. I agree with that.
Yeah, and these running backs are just fucking scatterbo. We don't know if he's going to start.
No discussion about that.
Javonte, bro, what? Like, Najee, I want to believe in him, but, Hampton's going in, the 4th round for a reason? And then, Jordan Mason, I think he's got great potential. He's the only one out of these guys that I actually would think about taking. So I'm not going to, say anything too negative about that. But, yeah, Jordan Mason doesn't cover the value that I see with these wide receivers here.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right, that is going to wrap things up in terms of the when you should be drafting running backs and wide receivers. I lost count personally of, which ones we selected for each part. So you're going to just have to replay that to get that.
But we all didn't pick the same stuff either, so it doesn't really help.
We did. Yeah, we did not at all. But I do want to point out one last thing. Even though we made it a very binary choice between running backs and wide receivers, that's not going to be the case when you actually get there. Or it's saying right now, we'd prefer the running backs over the wide receivers, but you will have to select the quarterback at some point. You will have to select the tight end. So don't just base it off of this episode where it's like, okay, I should just target wide receiver in round 6. Maybe there is a quarterback that you haven't gotten yet, and maybe you should have gotten him instead. So, we're kind of making it very binary, and we're kind of forcing it here, but, just be sure to be open when it comes to having to address the other positions, because you will eventually have to address them, and hopefully it won't just be in round 10 and later.
And you won't need too many of tight ends and quarterbacks. So you get a good one somewhere in the 4 through 7 or something, and then you call it a day and go back to drafting the guys you need. Yeah,
if you hate both running backs and wide receivers in a certain round, pick the quarterback. That's when you go.
Feeling right around 5 and 6.
Yeah, yep. I was thinking about that. Yeah.
You still get a good quarterback there. You still get a good tight end. You might get a Mahomes or Kelsey or, something like that. And that's perfectly okay with me.
Mm-hmm. All right. Now for the final part of our segment, we covered the why, we covered the how, we covered the when. Now it's who. We're going to talk about who specifically in terms of the rounds 10 and after we would like to target. We're just going to pick one name that we kind of like. It's just a sleeper pick, and we've kind of opened up to not just running backs and wide receivers, but anyone in particular that you kind of like after the 10th round and later. So, do you wanna start off with this? Because
you just want to laugh at me, and that's fine. You can laugh at me, Matt. I don't mind.
I'm always laughing at you.
You are. That is also correct. I said Kyle Pitts, and am I serious? Jokingly, Matt. Okay. Well, after Matt's done vomiting,
an involuntary reaction.
Yeah, that's okay. I understand. It's not a pretty name. It's actually a very hideous name in the fantasy community right now. But I mean, in terms of 11th round ADP, and you want a guy that has potential. I mean, that's all you're really counting on at this point. He has nothing to prove that. He's 4 years into the NFL career, and he has nothing but potential to kind of count on. But you're taking swings at this point, right?
I can't believe you're actually trying to justify this. I thought this was a joke.
I mean, I like it. I love Kyle Pitts, bro. You got a soft spot in my heart, bro. But my actual 2 picks are 2 running backs. Okay. 2 running backs that things have to break right technically for them to really be to be useful, I would say, in fantasy, but I can see it. There's Tajay Spears and Ray Davis. The arguments for them both are separate, right? Tajay Spears, he was just so much more efficient than Tony Pollard. And that's one of those things where Matt gets 2 carries for 9 yards. He is automatically more efficient than Tony Pollard. And that's just unfortunate for Tony Pollard, but, that's just how it goes. For Ray Davis, he was kind of the same argument of efficiency, but now you put on this whole James Cook conversation thing, and I think kind of the part of the reason why the Bills haven't just given James Cook what he wants is they feel that between Ray Davis and Ty Johnson, I think is the pass catching, they can split what James Cook does and get about 80% of what James Cook does, right? Maybe they can't get the huge explosive plays and whatnot, but Ty Johnson's a great pass catcher. He was their primary running back pass catcher last year, and then Ray Davis runs the ball so well, and it's a beautiful sight to see when he has the ball in his hands, and he's also very, very efficient. With his, I think he's almost close to 5 yards a carry, which that's what you're looking for when you're taking these sleepers, right? Is there a realm where if this guy were to get the ball more, it works out? And I'm not saying that James Cook is getting traded or he's not going to be there. I just don't know if the Bills are hey, we're not going to, re-sign this guy and he's still on our roster. Sure, he might get touches, but we got to start working on our, replacement of James Cook. And I think that's Ray Davis. I think that's why they got him last year, for eventually to take the reins from James Cook. So I like it. These 2 guys, they're very low in ADP. They're very good, just you got a Saquon, you got a Bijan. Now you're just I want to take a flyer at running back. I probably won't ever need to start him unless someone gets hurt or a bye week. These are the perfect guys, right? If they're ass in 5 weeks, you cut them and go grab the running back that's playing better. That's why I like these guys, because there's not really a reason to keep them in that sense, and they're really good handcuffs if you do have a Tony Pollard for some reason. And you have James Cook especially. I would definitely draft Ray Davis 100 times out of 10.
Yeah. And I think you brought up a point here where we talk about opportunity, right? Let's say you can't get opportunity players. All the most targeted players, all the most carried players are taken, right? So now you kind of have to look into more advanced stats where it's efficiency, right? If this guy's only getting 5 touches, you want to make it count, right? And if you eventually have to start him, right, you want to make sure that they actually get the most out of their carries. So yeah, if you can get the guy who averages 5 yards per carry versus the guy who only averages 2 yards per carry, and if they both get 5 carries each, Ray Davis is going to outscore whoever the other guy is. So that's when you start to look at a little bit more advanced stats like efficiency, because they're making the most of what they're doing on the field, even if it's limited, which means you still get, a good amount of points from that. Okay, Mitty, give us your sleeper. It's an interesting one.
I'll go with my guy, Jadon Blue. I would definitely go with him because, like I said, in those other rounds that we talked about, when we had brought up Javonte Williams, yeah, he could be the RB1 right now, but after seeing how he performed past seasons, I think you give Blue better options, and he will take over as a RB1 for the Cowboys. So we'll see how that goes for sure. But I definitely would keep him at a sleeper because I definitely see him taking over as an RB1. Probably not now, but probably in a few weeks.
I think that's true. I mean, who do they have? Javonte Williams? And he didn't look that efficient, honestly, right?
And then they had the guy, I think they still had the guy from last year. I don't remember which one. I don't think it's Rico Dowdle.
The tiny guy, right?
No, well, he's there. Deuce Vaughn is still there, yes, tiny guy.
Yeah.
But I wasn't talking about tiny guy.
Oh, you talking about Deuce, right?
No. There's another guy. All right, let me do some independent research real quick.
Oh, my God.
Is it Hunter? No.
Miles
Is
Sanders.
it Phil Meffa?
Miles Sanders, yes.
I
He wasn't there last year, but they had another guy. Yes, that's exactly what I was thinking about. So, yeah, I mean, it's not the greatest running back situation. So I think the potential, like we're saying, this is a 12th round ADP guy. Like the potential is what we're looking at. It's there. Like he has a route to becoming the starting running back in a hyper, I would say, scoring offense because they're always getting their ass beat by everybody. Mm-hmm. So, hey, man, this is what you're looking for, right?
No, I love that pick, honestly. It's a good sleeper.
Yeah, definitely one more guy.
I'm going to go with someone on Mitty's team here, and this is kind of a reach. I felt very encouraged by it when in April, but, as the months have gone by and I've seen some stuff, it's not my favorite thing now, but, this is exactly why he's a sleeper and not one of my, council champions or, league winners here. But my pick at sleeper is going to be Luther Burden, the rookie wide receiver from the Chicago Bears. And I know what you're thinking, right? There's a lot of obstacles, let's say, in terms of his ability to succeed and his ability to start. And again, we're saying opportunity is the biggest thing. His opportunity is very limited right now. I think he's like the wide receiver 3, maybe on the depth chart. He's competing for that right now as well. So it's not even a guarantee. You got DJ Moore, you got Rome Odunze, you got Colston Loveland, the first round rookie tight end. They're all going to compete for targets, right? Who knows how good those targets are because Caleb Williams wasn't the most accurate last year, right? So that's all said and done, right? But I remember when I was scouting Luther Burden, when I was doing my report on him for our draft episode, what I noticed is that a lot of great traits. One of which is, the ability to get yards after catches. He's a very slot-heavy guy. And he's kind of built to be versatile. He can line him up in the backfield. You can put him in the slot. You can kind of make him go in motion and do end-arounds and stuff. And what I had on him, what my comparison for him in terms of pros was Deebo Samuel, Amon-Ra St. Brown. Those two guys, versatile guys who can do anything, and they're slot wide receivers. Guess who was the offensive coordinator for the Lions with Amon-Ra St. Brown when he broke out and is now the head coach of the Chicago Bears? It's Ben Johnson. Ben Johnson. You guys got a good one, Mitty, and I think Ben Johnson had a certain thing in mind. He had Colston Loveland. There's a plan for him. There's a plan for Luther Burden, the second-round wide receiver. And I know what you're thinking, right? Ben Johnson hates Luther Burden. He's been yelling at him like all throughout training camp, and he's been disciplining him. I don't know why. I don't know why he's so hard on my guy, even though he drafted him, and he's like his prized possession. But guess what? I mean, yeah, he's trying to get him right. Jamar Chase dropped hella balls back in preseason in training camp when he was a rookie. Guess what? He became one of the best wide receiver seasons after that. Best wide receiver rookie season like in history, right? After that. I'm not going to say that Luther Burden's going to be that guy, but I think there's a plan in place for him to kind of take that next step. I predicted the Amon-Ra St. Brown rise, and I think that's exactly what he's trying to do. Ben Johnson's trying to do with Luther Burden. Just don't be surprised. Don't be surprised if he starts emerging. Maybe it's not this year, but I think it's going to happen. And I think that, I'll say it, honestly, I think, am I going to say it? I think Luther Burden will be better than Rome Odunze for the Bears offense in a couple years. Like when it's all said and done, they're going to love Luther Burden.
And my thing, to kind of go to both of your guys' players here, these are guys that like don't expect 17 points week one. It's probably not going to happen. Like you draft these guys, you got to be patient with them. And I think that's what people are not going to think about. It's like, yeah, these guys are not going to be good probably the first half of the year. Just keep them on your bench, especially if you're winning games or you have a good starting lineup. Like these guys have the potential. So don't give up on that unless you have to. Like your 3 wide receiver starters are hurt. and you got Luther Burden sitting there, get you 3, 5, 7, whatever it is a week, you got to cut him, right? But if you're in a situation where, hey, like shit's working well, I don't need to pick anybody up, or I don't have anybody to pick up, keep them, let them sit there. These guys are going to be second half guarantee. If they have upside and if they play well this year, it's going to be in the second half of the year for both Burden and Blue.
Yeah. Don't be surprised. Like, drafting is the first part of fantasy football. It's literally the first step. But the next part is maintaining your roster over the next 16 weeks, because it's crazy. You won't get it until you've actually experienced it. But yes, you're going to need to find new players. All these new situations will happen. Unfortunately, football, there's frequent injuries. So you're always going to have to like, okay, my guy's out for the week. I need to find someone new, right? And that's how guys like Burden will step up, or Jaden Blue, right? They're not always going to be just, oh, they're better, so they're going to start. Sometimes it's going to be an injury that forces them to step up, right? Just like Amon-Ra St. Brown a couple years ago. He kind of only emerged, as that option way late into the season, right? And he was like a waiver wire target. No one was even picking him up. So, when you go back to the later half of these drafts, it's lottery tickets at this point. And you're just kind of hoping that a situation changes and they become something else, right?
Yes, I 100% agree with you on that, Matt. A lot of this is you're going to have to wait, to be patient, and when it works out, you'll be all right.
Yeah. All right. Well, we covered everything there is to know about running backs and wide receivers in this episode. Thank you so much for tuning in. Once again, we are Sports Counsel. You can find us on Spotify, iTunes, Amazon Music, YouTube, everywhere you get your podcasts from. Follow our social media handles, sports_counsel. That's COUNSEL. You can find all of our latest and greatest, takes and reactions and posts about everything that's going on right now in the NFL. And then our Discord link is in the bios of all of that. Please join. Our listener league is starting up soon. Discussions are going to be starting up about preseason. We're going to do that right now, actually. There's a couple preseason games playing right now. And we're going to hop on there and kind of discuss that. So join all of that. Be sure to keep on following. And the Fantasy Draft Primer will continue to roll on next episode with our quarterbacks and tight ends. So it should be a good one.
Can't wait to see you guys there. Thanks, Midi, AJ, whatever alias you go by today. We appreciate having you on as always, man.
Yeah. You want a new nickname, Midi? You're going to try to figure a new nickname out?
Yeah, we'll see how the season goes for sure. And then it might be the King Residential Bears fan.
Oh, boy. And, G, you got to figure out that team soon. When are you going to make that announcement, that decision?
That's a good question. I think we're gonna have like a actual non-fantasy football recap, heading into the season type of things eventually. And at that point, I might be comfortable announcing it. I haven't actually picked a team. That's why I kind of sound unsure, because I am unsure, truth be told.
Do we have to put like a bunch of caps in front of you?
No, it's a 1 year kind of, departer. I told the world when Aaron Rodgers got there, I would not be there to receive any Aaron Rodgers anything. So I am staying true to my word. And with that being said, I will continue my hate of Aaron Rodgers.
Can you give us a hint?
Just like me.
Yeah, no, I don't have a hint for you, just because, totally, like I said, being honest and transparent with fans here that actually care about my next team. I don't know. I really don't. I've never been in a situation in my life before.
All right. And so,
maybe next time.
Continued, I guess.
You'll have to stay tuned to find out.
We'll see. All right. That is going to do it. Stay tuned. See you later.
See you.
Peace.